Hi everyone. Today we are going to be working on section 19.2 on strategic pricing. We're actually going to split this section into two parts. So today our main objective is going to be our first objective here, which is to explain the three approaches to setting the base price of a product. And the key terms that we're going to touch upon today are base price, cost-based pricing, markup, keystone pricing, demand-based pricing, competition-based pricing. So the first thing we're going to talk about is, well, what exactly is the base price of a product? Well, the base price of a product is the general price at which the company expects to sell the product. But there are two different approaches to setting the base price. We're going to go over each of these: cost-based pricing, demand-based pricing, and competition-based pricing. So cost-based pricing uses the cost of the product to set the selling price. So the first step in determining what the price would be to determine the actual cost of the business buying or producing the product. So we need to know how much goes into actually acquiring that product or how much goes into manufacturing that product. Next, what you're going to do is add the markup. So a markup is the amount added to the cost of the product to figure out what the base price is going to be, and that's going to reflect the desired profit. So here, the markup formula would be cost plus the markup would give you the base price. And you can do the markup by either just taking a regular dollar amount or a percentage of the cost. To determine the price using the percentage markup method, your first step is going to be to take the cost and then multiply it by a markup percentage and then add the cost back in. Or what I like to do is just take the cost and multiply it by 1 point and then the percentage, convert it into a decimal. Using the percentage markup is the most common way to determine the base price, and then the management will decide the percent of profit necessary for each item. So it's pretty easy to calculate. And then we have the keystone pricing method, and that is basically just doubling the total cost of the product to determine its base price. So you just take the regular cost, multiply it by 2. Many resale businesses use keystone pricing because it's just an easy 100% markup to the cost, and then determining the price using the dollar markup method of cost-price pricing. Here, if you look, demand-based pricing, it's the strategy based on what customers are willing to pay. So it reflects customer perceptions of product value. And this, however, is a short-term pricing strategy. It's not going to be something that you're going to use for the long haul, because demand and your competition is going to change frequently, and so you need to be constantly monitoring this to determine if this is the method that you're ultimately going to use. Competition-based pricing is going to be based primarily on what competitors charge. Now, some people might just simply match the price. Others might go slightly below. It depends on what your pricing objectives are. Here, this doesn't take into consideration the product costs or specific markups. This is strictly going to be based off of how your competition is pricing their products. The last step in pricing products is to select which pricing strategy will work best for the product or the service. And marketers tend to use one or more pricing strategy depending on the situation or the product type. This is what we're going to dive into tomorrow, the different psychological pricing strategies that we could use, or the discount pricing strategies. For today, when we practice how to determine what the base price is going to be, if you go to our packet, we're going to be doing some different calculations. Now, our last lesson, we learned the break-even point. Remember, that was the amount we needed to hit the number of units we needed to sell before we started making a profit. But now we're taking that to the next level. We're figuring out what our base price is going to be. So the dollar markup, and I'll take out my calculator here just to demonstrate. So give me 1 second to bring my calculator up. So the first method that we're using here is the dollar markup method. So to do that, you're simply adding. So if the cost was $800, you would just take $800 and you would add $325. Hold on, this is being a little slow, sorry. So 800 800 plus, go back to my packet, I believe it was 325 plus 325. So the answer for number 1 would be 1,125. So pretty simple. You're just adding to figure out the dollar markup method. Now the percentage markup method, you're taking the cost, you're multiplying it by the markup and adding the cost back in. You could do this one of two ways. So you could take 800, you can multiply that by 0.35. That's the percentage. So we're converting the percentage into the decimal. That would give us 280. And then we would add back in 800. So it would give us 1,080. Now there's another way that you could do this, however, to skip that last step of adding it back in. You could take 800 and you can multiply that by 1.35 and it'll give you the same answer. So 1,080. And then our last method is keystone pricing. And keystone pricing is super easy. All we have to do is take the base price, and with the keystone method, the markup is always 100%. So you would just multiply that by 2, and it would give you 1,600 here. If you have any questions while you're working,